When I was 12 years old, I told my father that I didn't want to go into the family business. And he's very successful. He owned 4 telephone companies. He was president of the National Independent Telephone Association. And he always dreamed of me going into the business. But I told him that I really didn't want to go into what he did. And I know he thought that, well, sooner or later that I would come around and I would get involved in his business and so forth. But at 12 years old, I knew that that's not what I came here to do. I knew for some reason that that was not my purpose in life. And so I told him I wanted to be a musician. And of course, any 12-year-old that tells their father that they want to be a musician, they think, well, okay, that's great. We'll play along for a little while. But actually, I organized myself. I became a musician. As a matter of fact, I won what they call the Benny Goodman Award at the National Jazz Clinics, which was the outstanding high school musician in high school. And then I went on to become a professional musician in college. And I found that as long as I followed my heart, that I was in the right place at the right time for me. And I knew that if I was going to do something in my life, it had to be for me first. And to me, that's what practical spirituality is all about. To me, spirituality is not what I believe in, it's who I am. Okay? As a matter of fact, when I was about 23, I sat in the park and I made a decision. Do I want to do what everyone else wants me to do, or do I want to do what I really want to do? And that's to share with people all these techniques, all these tools that I have learned to help people to get answers for themselves. And once I made that decision, a friend of mine came over and said that this gentleman needed a little help in a sales job. And I had never done any sales before. I was always in the creative end of things because I'm a person that gets an inner knowing for things. I like to be creative. As a musician and as a film producer, I used to do a lot of things that were more creative. I'd never done any sales or anything like that, but I knew I needed a little extra money. So what I did is I went to this gentleman's office and I found out that it was mortgage insurance. And I thought, well, I'm not sure if I really want to sell insurance. I'm not the kind of person that wants to just sell things. And but for whatever reason, it felt right. So I got the training and I went through, and they gave me a whole stack of IBM cards. This was back in the 1970s. And I took a look at those cards and I used my own inner guidance to check who really needed that product. And half of the cards I threw away. If that sales manager had known that, he probably would have thrown me out of the office. But I just, tuned into who I felt needed it. So in 2 weeks, I was the #1 salesman in the entire company out of 39 states. And I only stayed there for 2 months because I earned the money that I needed to, and I felt like I was really doing a service for people. But to me, tuning into my inner guidance, tuning into my own hunches, my own impressions, my own inner knowing of what's right for me and also for other people. It can't just be right for me alone. It has to be right for everyone. And one of the things we do in Inner Expansion is to help people to understand how to have that balance between being loyal to yourself first and also helping other people as well. One time I was in England, and I was invited to go on a national radio show. It was a call-in show, and I just used my sensitivity and I tuned into the people who were listening, and I just felt like they were always thinking in problems. So when I went on the show, all I did was I talked about solutions. And when the people came to the lecture that I did, they all talked about the problems they had. And one of the things that I've learned along the way is how important it is to think in solutions, to realize that as long as I have the facts inside, the what, the when, the where, and the why of what it is that I need to do, then my sensitivity can come up with a solution. The other experience I wanted to share with you on how practical this whole thing is to share this experience that I had about 6 months before my father passed on. I just had a hunch. I had an idea that I might never see him again. And he was just about to retire. I mean, he was healthy. He was in the process of going to Africa on a safari, and he was going up to the Yukon in Canada. He was a great sportsman, and I thought he was in perfect health. Well, because of that hunch, I listened to it. And I went down to his office more than I normally would, and I rekindled that friendship and that communication that we had, because obviously we were very busy, both of us. He was busy with his business, I was busy with my business, but I just had that hunch, that impression that if I didn't rekindle or communicate with him a lot more, that I might miss an opportunity. And believe it or not, he had just gotten back from Canada 6 months later and found out that he had 2 weeks to live. And he passed on with cancer, lymphatic cancer, and at that time, there was really not much they could do. So, I had that opportunity. I was so happy that I followed that impression and I followed that hunch. And to this day, I thank my lucky stars that I trusted it. Now, one of the things we do in InterExpansion is give people the opportunity to follow those impressions, to understand how it works, the mechanics of how it works. And I personally believe that I really don't have a right to keep people ignorant. In other words, if I have something that I know will help a person, I really don't feel that it's my decision whether I keep it to myself or not. Maybe that's some sort of divine inspiration that I have. But to me, it's very important that if I know something that will help someone, I'm going to definitely pass it on. Now, when I started InterExpansion, I just kept hearing in my mind the words InterExpansion in my mind over and over again. So I knew that that was something that people needed. My goal is to help people to help themselves. I don't want to tell people what they should believe. I don't want to tell people what they should do. There's no philosophy to this at all. It's just simply tools and techniques to help people to help themselves. And I've always believed in that old adage that if you give a man a fish today, he'll only be back tomorrow. But if you give a man a fishing pole and you show him how to fish, then obviously he's going to be able to find his own answers.